Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Heart Warriors. Heart Warriors is a series I was inspired and guided to do thanks to my energetic connection to Kata Tjuta. Kata Tjuta is the sacred masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru, the sacred feminine site. And it's this energy that's working through us to bring men on this show, to speak man to man with other men who are walking the path into the heart and now have their knowledge, their experience, their insights, tools, wisdom to share with other men walking this path. And of course, us women who are walking right there beside them and seek to get a better understanding of our men and the masculine journey. Now, the reason this is a very special episode today is because our special guest is Lucas-Light. And Lucas was one of the two men who I know personally and met twice at Uluru and Kata Tjuta, and is the inspiration and the whole reason that this series was created. So I'll get into that story when we bring Lucas on, but we have a lot to be grateful for Lucas, and of course Lardy, who is our #1 heart warrior. If you haven't seen Lardy's episode, that is a must as well. And you know, we kicked off in very humble style. I'm like, okay, Lardy, we're doing this, please get on and be my first guest. And it's taken us a little while to get Lucas on, but now I know it's all in divine timing, and we'll get into that as we bring Lucas on. So please enjoy the show. Here we are, Lucas-Light. Hey, Lucas, welcome to Heart Warriors.
Hello, sister. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and we have got a amazing connection and a story that I'd just like to share with those watching now, because you were a big part of how this Heart Warriors was created. And I'll just go into what I remember of the story, and maybe you'd like to add your, insights into it afterwards. So basically, our #1 heart warrior, Lardy, and Lucas and I have all connected twice at Uluru and Kata Tjuta, and we became very close and did a beautiful pilgrimage at Kata Tjuta together. And what happened during that period, I wrote something that came through to me, and so in mid-June, Lucas was doing a live on Facebook, and Lardy and I were actually in the chat, and it was the first time the three of us had sort of connected in one place for a couple of years. And so our memories of Kata Tjuta came up, and I said, oh, I'll share in my news feed that post that I wrote at Kata Tjuta. I think it's a good time. And Lardy said, oh, can you read it to me? Because I like to, have your energy with it. And I said, yes, I'll, read it in Messenger. And Lucas said to me, oh, can you make it public so we can share it? And I'm like, no, I don't put my face on video. I'm a writer. I don't, And Lucas, with his beautiful prompting, sort of said, well, maybe it's something you should think about. And, just with his beautiful masculine sort of direction. And so I did. I made a 6-minute clip of it, and I opened a YouTube channel. I didn't have one, and I put it there thinking, oh, this is going to be a channel for my poetry. We'll start with this one. And then the next morning, I woke up with the very clear knowledge that I'm going to interview men, man to man, and thus the creation of Heart Warriors. And I will add that Lardy was the first guest, and I had invited Lucas as the second guest, but we had technical issues. It wasn't his time. And then we had issues just with trying to connect and have the same sort of time free that would work for us to do another episode. And then, as it is, when I interviewed Frederick Marks 2 episodes ago, he was talking about veterans. And after that amazing show, I said, oh, it's my time to talk to some more veterans. And I'm like, oh, Lucas, it's not anything you've actually shared with me during our time together, but I thought I'll reach out now to Lucas. I think it's his time to be on Heart Warriors. And here we are.
Yeah, beautiful intro. And if I may add to that, the coming together of the three of us at Uluru and Kata Tjuta, being a veteran, and since I left, service, I went on a healing journey for myself because the established methods of dealing with things wasn't working for me. It didn't align with me, and it didn't help me. And so I had to go on this healing journey and self-exploration, of reintegration with not only with the community and society that I was living in, but also in myself. And coming to Uluru and Kata Tjuta, those times that I met you and Lardy there, it wasn't like a holiday. That was a part of the spiritual and healing journey that I was on. I was called there by, what I call spirit. And the way we met, how we met, the synchronicities that were happening, the energy that was evolving there was truly magical. And we, we all felt it, we all saw it, and just so many things that were taking place there for all of us on our own individual journey, but coming together. And, for example, you being at the rock and Lardy being in between the rock and me being back at base camp on this particular day of this particular alignment when there was particular things happening. And we all just seemed to be in the perfect place, in an alignment with each other, unconsciously, but correctly. And, and the things that are flowing on, like the work that you're doing now and bringing to the forefront of people's minds, especially men at this time of such confusion and contrived deception being placed upon the population by design, to have you coming out and bringing this, bringing men to share their stories, to remind and remember and put back together in the minds of the men what it is to be men. And it's completely, in contradiction to what we're seeing on the media and what's being sold and what's being portrayed, to the way that certain entities want things to go. And what you're doing and bringing this forum to the men to speak as men, and for other people to see that and to remember, just bringing a grounding that masculine energy that is being attacked by external entities, bringing this forum of grounding this energy and this information to remind the men what it is so important at this time. And same for the women as well. I think this could work well for the women as well, because there's been a lot of contrived direction in humanity for quite some time. And we end up with this society of people who don't really know who and what they are, because they're being told one thing which is in contradistinction to what they're feeling. And because they're feeling something that they're not seeing on the media, and they're being told the opposite, they're getting confused, right? And they're being kept in a state of confusion, in my opinion, deliberately, because when someone's in a state of confusion, they're easily controlled, right? If you control the mind, you control the body. It's really that simple. That's how it works. You control the spirit through religion, you control the mind through the media and the politicians, and you control the body through the mind, right? So, you know, what you're doing, I just really want to highlight the importance of it. And, you know, as a ex-serviceman, I joined with the intention of serving my country at the time. And, and I think that's what most people do when they join, and that's an honourable place to be coming from. But as we learn and we grow and we come to different understandings, and we see things differently, we evolve with the time. And my position, my feelings, my sentiment towards service, for the greater good, for the greater community, it hasn't changed. And I want to see, because I live in this world and I live in this land, right, on this land, and I'm a part of it just like everybody else, I want to be free, and I want everybody else to be free, and I want them to be, in a state of flow, of peace, of consciousness, so that we can all live in a symbiotic and harmonious relationship with each other and with the earth that sustains us. And, because what I've found is, if it's only me or a couple of people, feeling or thinking this way, it's really difficult to interact and to freely express and go about one's inclinations, natural inclinations, in a society that, for a big part, likes to oppress these things. So, yeah, I've spoken enough.
So wise. I just love it. I just love how you can, articulate that so beautifully. Thank you. Let's talk about you now, Lucas. How would you describe the man sitting here with us today?
I think, in a world of confusion, I feel sometimes quite misunderstood. But I know who I am, and I'm not ashamed to be who and what I am. I'm adamant, and I'm centered in that, and I won't be pulled off that by anyone else's opinions or beliefs or fears. I won't have external projections of people's opinions pull me off my path. And the man I am today, I think I'm very, very simple, but perceived as extraordinarily complex. I'm changing every day, physically, as I learn and grow, I come to different comprehensions and have different points of view about things as I observe my environment and surroundings and the people there in it or around it. And but I'm still Lucas. I'm an Sancturian. I practice what I preach, insofar as my wisdom will afford me that comfort in order to achieve what I need to achieve. And practicing what I preach is doing what I believe to be right based on the information that I've absorbed for all the different mediums of information, you know, through books, through media, through spiritual experiences, through physical experiences, through environmental observation, you know, watching the animals, the plants. So the cats are licking themselves, licking each other right now. You know, they're always loving each other. So I'm kind of distracted and I lost my train of thought. But who am I?
That's a beautiful insight into you. Thank you, Lucas.
I'm an ex-Sancturian. That's who I am.
Hmm.
An ex-Sancturian. And I say that, and what I mean by that is I've created this arc sanctuary, my own space, this place of light on the terra that I've been granted by Spirit to exist on at this time. And just like anyone would identify themselves as an Australian, you know, or a Victorian, or whatever they choose to identify themselves as, I'm an arc sanctuarian because this is the arc sanctuary. So just to clear that up for people.
Love it, love it.
It also has spiritual connotations to it as well. It's the body, mind, and spirit of the arc of light and the sanctuary for the people who choose to be within and of the light.
Amazing. Yes, love that. Lucas, let's jump back to your childhood. What was a significant challenge that you overcame that you believe shaped you into the man you are today?
It's a really hard question because, you know, growing up, I was quite fortunate. You know, I grew up in quite a fortunate, you know, well-off kind of environment, though I always chose to put myself in, you know, just where everyone else was. And I like to be around I like to be involved in the grittiness that was happening or be around that, you know. I like to be in the water in freezing temperatures. I like to be, you know, to the point where I'd almost be hypothermic, you know, and I like to be in these positions. But growing up, I don't recall anything particular that was really difficult or challenging. I know, you know, my parents split up when, you know, I was quite young, and it was really hard on my family. I couldn't really, I couldn't really understand why it was so hard on them all. So I was there just, you know, for them to pick them up and hold them up. But I think maybe one of the most challenging things was feeling different to everybody else, because everybody had their circles of friends, and, you know, I had groups of friends and stuff, and a few very close friends, but I always sort of felt like I was always just a little bit distant from the rest, you know, and I didn't know why, or understand why, or comprehend why. And sometimes that was probably one of the most hardest things to deal with, was feeling and being on the outside of, you know, the sort of group, you know, just because we had differences of understandings, and, you know, I couldn't understand things and they couldn't understand me. And so it was the divide of, you know, being apart from the group. And this has been a common theme throughout my whole life. It hasn't changed. But now I sort of have a better understanding and acceptance and knowing of why and that sort of thing, and that's okay. But that was probably one of the most challenging things, is not being accepted by the group. But it's really, you know, that's been the thing that shaped me the most, and I think which has really propelled me forward in being okay with not being part of the group. Because if the group isn't in alignment with what I feel or what's true, what's real to me, and and I don't want to go down that path. A lot of people will go down that path just because they don't want to be separated from the group because they feel strength in the group. I think there's a lot more strength inside in the individual. Obviously, when we come together, we are powerful, but we are also powerful inside. And when we're alone, as I've been for the last few years, basically, not all the time, but for most of the part, we really get to reflect and contemplate and feel and think and observe, and we really get to grow into ourselves, which is where the true power is. So don't be, for the men out there who they want to, they want to be part of the group because the group's fun and it's flashy and it's, whatever, but don't, my advice is don't feel like there's something wrong with you if you don't fit into the group, and don't try and make yourself fit into the group. If you're a circle, don't try and fit yourself into a square because it's just not going to work, and it's going to hurt yourself more than help yourself. Don't be afraid to sit in yourself and contemplate what is it that you want and you desire and what is right for you and your soul and your spiritual journey on this earth, which is also your physical journey.
Beautiful wisdom. Lucas, what made you, how old were you, and what made you decide to give your service to Australia?
How old was I? I think it was about 2008, maybe a bit earlier. So I was sort of, going from job to job. I left school early to do some pre-apprenticeship in building and carpentry, which I really enjoyed. And then I got into a job that was supposed to be carpentry, but it was just fitting these partition walls. So I left that, and I was still about 17. Then I did some, work in factories, in restaurant, cleaning dishes, then making pizzas, then started my own business doing blinds. And I was always hanging around with older people because I like to play pool, billiards. And I got really, quite good at that. But I was always around older people, so I was always influenced by these older people as well. And so I started my own business doing window furnishings and things like that. And it was good money, but the money it just never gelled with me. Like doing something just for money, it just didn't sit with me. It didn't fulfill me. I'm just like, this isn't what it's about. I don't get it. Like, yeah, it's good, but it's not it, right? So I was doing, I was quite active in my youth, and I was doing some kickboxing and some Muay Thai with one of my good friends still, who was an instructor at the time. And, he was showing me some pictures of what was the special forces at the time. And I'm like, and he was telling me about the jobs they do and counterterrorism and that sort of thing. And it was 9/11 had happened a while before that, but the story was still going and was still fresh in people's minds and hearts. So, being brought up in the system and, in that box per se, that's all I knew, and that's everything I believed. So doing that and, growing up on a healthy, unhealthy diet of movies and media and that sort of thing, I believed it was an honourable thing to serve my country, and I still believe it is an honourable thing to serve your country. Absolutely. And so I did that. I was young and I was fit, and I didn't really have any other direction. I was just sort of floating around and doing this and doing that, but I wasn't being fulfilled. So I was searching for something. So I joined the reserves and really enjoyed that. You know, because I always loved camping as a child. Or growing up, I love being outdoors. You know, I grew up with shooting and targets, sports shooting and things like that, hunting. I enjoyed all that stuff as I was brought up that way. When it came to hunting, I always sort of, it was good that I did because, when I would hunt, it never felt good. And I always remember the feeling of how it felt to be hunting animals. And it never really felt good. So I really had a foundation of already what it was like to, take the life of an animal, right? And it didn't feel good. And I always knew that. And unless, of course, you're going to eat it, then I believe that's fine. That's sacred. That's ritual. That's part of the circle of life. But growing up with that foundation of camping and shooting, sports shooting, I love sports shooting. I love shooting targets and things like that, and I love I got into the fitness, and the army seemed to offer all these things that I enjoyed: bush, fitness, shooting, and all these things in an honourable capacity as serving your country. And when I got into the army, one thing I remember, and I said it to my mum, it's so good in there because nothing is about money, right? That's how it was as a private, as a digger. There was nothing that was, there was no talk of money. When you're at work, there's no talk of money. It just doesn't exist. It's just doing whatever you're doing, and that's it. And I appreciated that. And then I stepped forward and I went into the regular army, and then moved on from there as well. And I really enjoyed my time in the army. For the most part, obviously there was challenges and trying times, as there is in any path we choose in life. The cock's got something to say. Big cock out there.
I love it. So, where did you go and for how long when you were deployed overseas?
I was deployed for 6 months, and deployed to the Middle East, you'd call it. Yeah, to Afghanistan. And 6 months to Afghanistan.
Is there anything you can share with us about any experiences, what you went through during that 6 months?
Well, during that 6 months, there was a lot of challenging experiences, a lot of personal growth, and coming to different understandings. War is war. It's not pretty. It's not glorious. I don't know if it is or it isn't a necessary evil. I'm not sure. It seems to have been happening throughout history, since time began, or at least since recorded history anyway. I often contemplate, where would we be without wars? How many people would there be? Where would we be? Because from every negative or perceived negative comes a positive as well. Like we're here, the world is as it is today, for better or worse. Most people that I know seem to enjoy life and have a pretty good life. War is war, and what we take of the experience and what we make of the experience is an individual thing for everybody who experiences it. It's not something that I would advocate for anybody. But it's also shaped me to be who I am today. It's put me in the position I am today. It's helped me grow and come to so many different understandings and comprehensions. And you know, there's a positive in every negative.
Yeah, that's so true. Lucas,
I will say,
please
you
do.
know, it was good to get a you know, you get a sort of sense of a country, and you know, the experiences that I had there, you know, in interacting with the local people and getting to learn the language, you know, are really parts that I did enjoy. You know, so spending that much time there and sort of I don't know if you'd say integrating, but communicating with the people was a really interesting and part of it. And you know, seeing how people live and how they grow, and you know, it's just it was really interesting part of it, I suppose.
That's beautiful, like the humanitarian side of it. Lucas, for those of us that have never experienced war, could you just take us back to one particularly memorable day while you were in Afghanistan and share that story with us?
You know, probably the most memorable day was probably the day when I lost, you know, a friend. And you know, we were just on a job and doing a patrol, and we jumped off these vehicles, and I went into this building compound, just a plate walls without a roof, and sort of led the people in there, and you know, we could see that it was full of things that associate with explosives or are used for explosive ordinances. And yeah, we just knew that we had to be careful in there. And we started sort of receiving enemy fire, and we started moving around. And yeah, and I moved out of there, and next thing you know, we hear an explosion, and yeah, you know, that's, you keep doing what you've got to do at the time. You know, when you're receiving that enemy fire and you're still in that conflict, you do what you've got to do to get to a state of safety, and then you assess the environment, and you do the cleanup, you know. And you know, I remember talking to him just before it, and he was just about to go on holidays, and it's funny, we were just sat down, him and I, just having a chat before we got on the vehicles to get to that place, and he was looking forward to going and seeing his girlfriend, and in whatever country she was, or wherever she was. I don't know if he was coming back here or to Australia, or, but yeah, that's probably the most memorable thing that's the thing that comes to mind. And it's funny because, you know, after it, I completely forgot about it. You know, when I was talking to the psychs at work, I completely forgot when they asked me about that same sort of question. And I just completely forgot about it, like it wasn't even in my mind. It's weird. But yeah, that was an experience.
Thank you for sharing that, Lucas. How do you deal? Well, you said that, you know, you just put it out of your mind, but shall we come back into reintegrating in society now after a deployment? What have you got to share about that? Either your own personal experience or in general, or what you think could be improved? What needs to be said about returned servicemen and women?
Yeah, so thank you for asking, because I think, you know, as a returned serviceman and witnessing, you know, people I worked with as returned servicemen going through certain procedures and certain protocols that really have appeared to speed up the degradation of the individual. And, you know, when I was leaving, you know, my family and the professionals were you know, sort of pressuring me to get on medication. And I tried the medication. And on the second day, I was stood on a train and I sort of blacked out. And as you know, when the train doors open, I fell onto the platform and then was taken in an ambulance and whatnot. And so the medication didn't work for me. And that just really said to me, nah, that's it. I need to find something different to, you know, help myself reintegrate. And, you know, I'm still not working because I sort of have a certain distaste for authority or anybody telling me what to do after, you know, so much time in the army. But I did go on a very powerful healing and spiritual journey, and the spiritual part was a byproduct of the physical part, you know. And I moved to the beach, and at the age, I think I was about 30, I started to learn to surf. I bought myself a surfboard, big Malibu thing, or mini Mal, and I just went to the beach every day. And the water was so healing to me, and being next to the water, you know, hearing the waves was therapy in itself. But being in the water was so healing, and just learning to do something new that was physical and, you know, also has a great spiritual aspect of being connected to the water and learning the power of Mother Nature and being humbled by that on many occasions. You know, it really, surfing does so much because, you know, when we get humbled by the surf, when we get held under and, you know, we find it hard to, you know, we can't get a breath. It really reminds us how much we appreciate life and how much it's, you know, we want to sort of hang on to it because, you know, when you can't get that oxygen, you need to take the breath and your lungs are screaming, you know, it doesn't matter how many negative thoughts you've had the day before or that day or whatever, and, you know, oh, I don't want to be here anymore or whatnot. When you're held underwater or you're being moved by the water and it's completely out of your control and you're at the mercy of the water, you know, when you can't get that breath, you really realize in an instant how much you appreciate your life, you know, and want to sustain that, right? So that in itself is an amazing thing. And I know, you know, one of the side effects of the medication that they prescribed is you know, suicidal ideology, suicidal thoughts. And it's like, you know, that just doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, the natural path that I took was just so healing. And then I got involved with a thing called Your Health, and we were I started taking these health products, and it was all about gut health, alkalizing greens, and all these different health products that were natural. And I got onto them, and I started feeling alive. It brought me to life, because I hadn't had much experience or knowledge about health or well-being or anything before that. So I was doing that. Then I started surfing, and through a program called Young Diggers, which I was put onto through the Army or DVA, and I've got to say, I really have had a really positive experience with, DVA, and with the way they've dealt with, me personally, after leaving the Army. I really haven't had, I don't have any complaints. So they put me on this program called Young Diggers, and I got a assistance dog. His name was Dusty, and he was one of the dogs they used to train the dog handlers, the dog trainers. So he was pretty, he was really smart and well behaved, and he had this jacket, with an L plate on it as a assistance dog. So I could take him basically anywhere I went, and what that was doing was being in these places like shopping centers or wherever it was, and people would see, you've got this dog, and naturally people are drawn to animals, so it would bring people to me at a time when I was feeling completely disconnected from society and from people and from strangers and distrusting. So it would bring people to me in a positive way, because they're feeling positive, and it would just really open up the interaction between me and the people around me. And not only that, to maintain a training regime for Dusty, so he and I would bond, and our bond would grow, and it would keep me not occupied, but in a positive way, occupied in a way where I could see positive growth coming from another life form that was attached to me. And, and I was, helping him, and he was helping me, and we formed this amazing bond, Dusty and I, and so that, yeah, it was a really good program from Young Diggers. And I think they've still got that program running, or someone through them might be still running it. So if there's any veterans out there struggling, I really highly recommend the assistance dog program. And I know they have a way where you can get your dog to be an assistance dog as well. And they get the jacket, and then you get your ID card, and you can take them wherever you go. But when you do that, you've got to be prepared and open for people to come to you, because people are going to come to you. They are drawn to animals, and they see an animal in a place, or you've got your dog sitting outside. People are drawn. So you've got to be prepared to be open to receive and communicate with people just on that, natural, positive, flowing, level,
Is that the reason they give you the dog? Or did Dusty have a different purpose originally, and that was an offshoot of it, a beautiful bonus?
Well, I guess that is, that would be the intent of it. I mean, in an expanded view, but they, obviously give it to you to keep you company, because I'm living by myself in a unit, and, I've got my dog, and, well, I didn't have a dog. It was just me, there. And you go from a life of high speed, high intensity, always doing stuff, always busy, always other people around, to, basically stopping, and, you sort of put in your own environment, and you've got to sit with yourself. And so they give you that companion dog, is what they call it, a companion animal. And yeah, I guess that's the purpose of, well, I guess that's an expanded purpose of it. But the purpose of the companion dog, I suppose, is going to pertain to the individual, you know, and it might take someone, you know, if they get a companion dog and they go out and they're not used to being around people and they don't, you know, they're still not integrating well with the community. You know, it might take them a bit of time. I don't know. It can be, you know, it can serve in many different ways. Even just giving someone a responsibility and something to look after and something to live for, you know, having a connection with something. And, you know, so I guess it's for the individual. But you know, if anyone does have these, or with any animal, you know, I just urge people to be open to the dialogue that it brings forth, and, you know, be open to following the paths that, you know, some of those interactions might lead to, because through that and through that it opened up a lot of conversation, which then sort of took me down the spiritual journey, you know, like through meeting different people through whatever, you know. So
Lucas, not unfortunately, not as many veterans have been as integrated as easily as you took yourself, because I do believe also, you know, you put a lot of power into your integration. I've heard that particularly maybe in the States, the veterans aren't as well cared for as maybe we have here in Australia. Can you please speak to ex-servicemen who are struggling at the moment?
one thing I want to say that come to mind is that a lot of the ex-servicemen have families. A lot of them have wives or children or their families around them. And when people, those around us that love us and care for us, with the best intentions, they can sometimes amplify and magnify things by, they sort of can unconsciously perpetuate or create something that isn't there, or you know, isn't what they think it is, based on what they're being told or what they're reading or learning from the professionals. So I guess they have more of a challenge to face, because they've got the, you know, I was fortunate that I didn't have anything really tying me down, and I was able to go on this journey and leave and do these things. You know, to the veterans that are out there and that are struggling, like, first of all, if what you're doing isn't working, you know, we need to change that, right? There are certain things that we can do. So when I got back and after I did all these things, I tried to start a retreat with all the things that I thought were the holistic foundations of what the veterans needed to build themselves back up and you know, re-strengthen and regrow and reintegrate. And those things are health and nutrition, you know, surfing or sports or hobbies. Breath work is a really big one. That was a really, really big one for me. That shifted a lot of things emotionally, physically, certain like types of breath work. There's calming breath works, there's activating breath works, yoga, you know, even going to a yoga class and just being in that, you know, and remember that we're all learning. You know, I started all this after I was 30. It doesn't matter if you're 50 or 60, right? Going to a yoga class and being around, you know, that energy, you know, of just even watching the instructor, you know, and just observing and absorbing that energy around you and learning the yoga, which aligns your body, right? So that's part of the holistic health, the physical health, as well as the emotional health, because as we expand and move our body and align our body, it moves blockages, because a lot of the emotional blockages. They're an energetic blockage that are stuck because we keep doing the same thing, and we're trying to get a different result. We have to move that energy out of the way. We have to move our body in different ways to move that energy in different ways. So, you know, for the people that are struggling, like simple, practical things that people can do, go and get a surfboard and fall off as many times as it takes until you stand up. You know, if you don't live near a beach, go and find a yoga class or a sound healing or meditation, because sound healing as well is so powerful, because the frequencies that our water molecules absorb throughout our service and just general life, is, you know, that goes for builders and all that, you know, can distort the vibration of the water molecules that are in our bodies, right? On a physics sort of speak. So sound healing can help to realign and retune our body, mind, and thus the spirit. Right? I know a lot of people are, you know, they tend to shy away when you talk about spirit, and that's okay. You know, if that's not where they're at or they don't want to be, that's fine. But the body and the emotions, you know, that's all part of it anyway. That's all part of the spiritual experience. So it's all interconnected and intertwined. But, you know, practical things that people can do, yeah, learning to surf or doing yoga, doing different things with either by yourself or with different people that don't know your story and that won't amplify that story. People that will just, you know, you go to a yoga class and you do your yoga and you either chat or you don't chat or whatever, or people want it, but just do something outside of the story that you're in. And, you know, we are what we are, and we've been where we've been. Our past is our past and the future is the future. We can either learn from the past and we can grow from it, or we can stay in the past and be consumed by it. You know, that's the choice that we all have. But I'm trying to give little things that people can do, practical things. You know, start cooking. Give yourself an hour a day. If you can't even leave the house, you know, if you're not able to leave the house, but you've got people around, right, what you do is you just go, right, well, okay, from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock every second day to start with, or every third day, or one day a week, or every day, whatever you want, or from 12 o'clock till 5 o'clock, for however long you want. This is my quiet time. I don't want anyone to speak to me. And I don't want to speak to anybody, not because I don't love you or respect you or appreciate you around and what you do, but just because I just need this time for me to do what I'm going to do. And, you know, put yourself somewhere where you can do something you enjoy. You know, give yourself time. You really have to give yourself time to sit and reflect and deal with things and allow things to come up. You know, and if things come up, that's good. You know, allow it to come up and go, all right, I see what that is. I see that blockage or that feeling, that emotion, and it's coming up, and I'm not going to block it, and it comes out, and let it go. You know, love that experience, be grateful for that experience, and appreciate it for the lessons that it's taught you moving forward. You know, what have you learned? You can reflect on that emotion, that experience that you're experiencing, and you sit there in your time of that hour that you've got, and then you reflect, like, what was, you know, how can I use that moving forward to create a better, you know, self, and then family, and then community, right? And it extends out into the world. So these are little things people can do, practical things, learning to draw or doing mindfulness, you know, coloring in. I did a lot of coloring in, learning about new things, you know, learning about ourselves. You know, I looked a lot into astrology and numerology and all the things that, you know, the names and the numbers, the birthdays, and it helped me to understand myself, because I was like, I'd look up, you know, my birth date, my life path number, or my astrological sign, and I would read it, and it would describe me, and it helped me understand, right, there's something else going on. There's a reason why I'm this way, or my personality is this way. There's a reason why I feel this way at this time, you know. These things can really help us understand. I know a lot of people think it's mumbo jumbo and it's whatever. It's not. You know, we live in a solar system. We live in this universe. We're not separated from it, and it has effects on us. And when we learn and comprehend that, you know, like a fine wine, you know, you're never going to get two of the same wine, right? So where you're born, the day you're born, the time you're born is relevant to the surrounding cosmos, to the solar system, to the planets. And you know, the art and science of astrology is incredible when you actually open your mind up. And opening up your mind to learning new things is the only way to grow and to move out of a place where we're stuck. If we do not open our mind and we are not open to different things, we are always going to remain the same. And I'm explaining this because it really is important that we understand why we feel the way we feel, why our personality is how it is, right? And I've been studying this stuff for a while and observing all the people around me, you know, and it's incredible. And it just gives me this sense of peace, you know, like, because, excuse me, society likes to tell us, this is how you're going to be. This is the box that you're going to be in. And if you don't fit in that box, we're going to give you something to either subdue you or try and bring you back into this box, be it medication or whatever. Okay? But the universal truth of astrology and the science of astrology and numerology and the science of the universe tells us that we are not all the same in our personality, in our nature, in our inclinations, and we're not supposed to be, right? We're all the same fundamentally, as we are all part of an earth organism, right? We're all these little cells running around on this earth organism, but we have different personalities, we have different emotional needs, you know, and desires, and different ways of interacting with the environment and the community and the society around us, right? So if we learn about ourselves first, right, through the use of the science of astrology, numerology, and that sort of thing, you know, and these are things you can do from your lounge room. You don't have to leave the house. When you learn and you really dig into it and you learn about yourself, it's extremely empowering because it takes away from the opinion of society. It takes away, you know, the confusion that comes from their opinions, because their opinions don't really resonate with how you're feeling and thinking. So, you know, you're a bit confused. It takes away the confusion. When there's no more confusion around yourself and why you are the way you are, you know, it really empowers us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great message, Lucas. I love it so much. Can you remember back to when you did return to Australia after your 6 months deployment? What was the dominant emotion that you were experiencing?
I was very hypersensitive, and I still am, but I was hypersensitive to society, you know, physically with sounds. There was a disconnect there was a, you know, from where I was to where they were, and from their experiences to my experiences, there was a disconnect. I felt grateful to be home, you know, and grateful for the support. And I know a lot of people haven't had, or maybe haven't had the same support that I've had or felt that I've had.
How did you feel towards the army and the agenda behind your deployment?
Well, when I returned, I wasn't too I wasn't aware of the agenda, really. You know, I wasn't. But towards the army, I never sort of, you know, there's a saying in the army: you joined the army didn't join you. And it's a true saying. You know, so it comes down to self-responsibility, and that's also a big part of healing, right? Is taking on self-responsibility for where we, you know, our choices in life. The only thing that I felt about leaving the army, the only sort of negative feeling I had, was just the way it sort of happened, you know. But it had to happen that way anyway, you know. So I'm not. I try not to blame others for things that are in my control, because when I do that, you know, I'm giving power away. You know, like yesterday, my dogs got taken. That was outside of my control. Yeah, I blame the people who took them, but I comprehend the circumstances of why they took them, because they were, you know, out in a public space. I comprehend it. I don't agree with it, but it's happened. I don't blame them. They're doing what they're you know, prescribed to do, and we'll remedy that down the track. Can you hear me okay with this brain?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're good. We're good. We can keep going.
Right.
Lucas, I was talking to a gentleman who's been making films about veterans integrating into society. And we spoke about the emotion of betrayal as these gentlemen learn the truth about the agenda behind war. You got anything to say about that?
Well, I guess, you know, the agenda behind war has always been about opposing beliefs and opposing sides in contest with each other for resources in order to sustain their population's lifestyle, I guess. You know, without war, again, you know, I probably wouldn't be on this great land that I love, that is my home, that I incarnated on, you know. And that's just a reality. And, you know, we're told that people had to suffer for that to happen, and people have been suffering throughout history. But the agendas of war, you know, at the end of the day, it appears that a society benefits and another side loses or loses out, you know. So what was the other part of the question?
Well, there was this, we spoke about betrayal because it was more, for example, the Iraq War, you know, the honourable men and women that served in that war went over with the intention of serving the media narrative. And without going into that, I mean, I know you're a truther and I know that you have got an understanding behind 9/11 that is different from the one we were sold through the media. So the men, what I'm saying is the men and women that served in that war, when they find out the truth behind 9/11, they come back maybe with a sense of betrayal. And you could probably relate that to any agenda behind any war. There's the narrative, the media narrative, the one we sold for the reason of war, and there's the truth behind it. So what this gentleman spoke about is there was a sense of betrayal with many of the returned veterans who then understood an opposing narrative to the one that they'd honourably started to serve. Does that resonate with you?
I hear what you're saying. And I think, you know, if you go deep enough, it's not just the military who's been betrayed. I'm sure they probably experience it a lot more than others because they have vested a lot, body, mind, and spirit into their service, and coming out of it, you know, perhaps learning different things as to what, you know, we were told or believed at the time. Can certainly be discomforting to say the least, but there's a maxim or a principle of law, and it says the act of the agent is the act of the principle. Now, so long as there's competition in the world, and so long as there's wars in the world, it's wise to have a defense force, so long as those things exist, right? The people that join and, you know, not knowing something is not knowing something, and doing something, you know, honorably or with honorable intentions is acting honorably. We're all ultimately responsible for our individual actions. And then you have obviously orders and things like that where the line gets a bit convoluted. And there's also, you know, it goes deeper than that, but it's not just the military who's been deceived. You know, kind of the whole world in reality has been deceived. And, you know, because it wasn't just the soldiers who decided to join the army. You know, there was a media presence. There was a community encouragement. There was a community presence. You know, the whole community, you know, everyone supports their soldiers as they should, right? So it's the whole sort of community is, in that sense, regarded as the aggregate and was deceived, right? Or has been deceived. And all we can do, everything that's happened has happened. We can't change the past, right? You know, and for some people, you know, that might be hard to live with. But all you can do moving forward is use that experience and the wisdom that comes from the experience, not from stories. Use the wisdom, because, you know, everyone who's gone through a dark period or is going through a dark period is gaining great wisdom and learning how to come through that, because they're still here. And learning from those experiences in the past, and then coming to a realization of how you as an individual can use that to better the future for future generations. Then we go from having a negative to a positive, and we balance it out, because it's all an energetic exchange. The entire world is just an energetic pulse of you know, ebbs and flows, and we have to go through this negative to learn, right, to gain the wisdom that comes with experience, so that we can then propel ourselves forward and create the positive for future generations, right? That's how you turn around that, you know, or whether it be shame or guilt or being deceived. We all got deceived, right? All of us, everybody. It's okay. It's okay to be deceived. It just means that you're trusting, right? And you put trust in something that, you know, you were told you could trust. And you know, because in a civilized society, you know, you should be able to trust these organizations in such positions of power. You should be able to trust, you know, the policymakers. You should be able to trust the media, right? That's, you know, and as human beings, we are trusting, right? We choose to see the best in people, because most of us have the best intentions. So it's hard for us to see, you know, maybe the deceptive or negative intentions of others who might be deceiving us, right? But, you know, whether people be going through shame or guilt or, you know, feeling betrayed and deceived, feel that. That's okay. Allow yourself to feel that. Okay, so how do we transform that feeling into a positive for the future? We make sure that those mediums that we thought we can trust can be trusted. We make sure that moving forward into the future, the media can be trusted, so that everything that it puts out, you know, it's accountable for, and it can be trusted by the people, right? We make sure that the policy holders, right, are putting out policies that are in alignment, right, with the betterment of our future, right? And we hold them to account. This is how we turn the negative to the positive, because a lot of people throughout, you know, the last, you know, decades, you know, have lost people and have made sacrifices, and, you know, we're at this point, you know, and all this information is coming out, and people are getting a bit, you know, coming, you know, a bit shocked by it all, and it can be the energy that comes with that. If we don't direct it in a meaningful way, then we can just create more chaos. But if we use those experiences, we use that energy, and we go, right, this is how I feel, right, I've learned from this wisdom, now this is what I want, so that this can't happen again. So this can't happen again, this deception, this whatever it was that created this, this mess, I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen ever again. That's what I'm going to do with that energy. And I'm going to turn that negative energy, the wisdom that I've gained from it, into a positive for future generations.
So good. So good, Lucas. Love it, love it, love it. Lucas, we got
And that's anyone can do that, right? That's something that they can sit with in their hour of quiet time when they're at home or at the beach or whatever, you know, and those things come up and they go, right, well, this is what I'm feeling. You know, what can I do as an individual to make sure that that doesn't happen again, right? Absent anything like violence, right? How can I use that and be the change that we want to see, right? We want that peaceful, harmonious future, you know, fair, right, for everybody. So we have to be that. In order to get to that, we have to be that, right? We can't be that which we don't want to be or we don't want to see. So how can I, when you're in that hour of meditation, which you do at home, how can I use this? What do I need to do now to manifest this? And anyone's job might be just, it might be on an individual level from one person to another person. That might be it, and that's fine. Just work out how you can take that and what you can do with the resources that are available to you, right? Or can you get together with other people to create these things and figure out how you're going to move forward and create that positive.
Yeah. So good. Thank you, Lucas. We've got about, well, I know we're going to go over time with this one, but it's all good. We've got, say, 20 minutes left. What else needs to be said in this conversation around either men, masculinity, or your own journey, Lucas?
Men, masculinity, and your own journey. Well, the masculine energy is to realize your own journey, right? To step out of what everyone else is doing and saying, right? To muster up and to bundle up all of that knowledge, experience, wisdom that you've gained throughout your whole life, and to bring that into alignment, right? And figuring out what you need to do to create that change and doing it, and taking your journey as your journey. The masculine is said to be very direct and, and focused. And, all right, this is what I see needs to be done or needs to change. That's where I'm going, right? The feminine will go, right, I can see that over there. That's got to change. But I can see the flowers over there, so I'm going to go and smell those on the way. Then I'm going to go and dip my toe in the pond over there and have a chat to the birds, right? So it's being on that path and not, appreciating the flowers and the feminine energy around, and appreciating the support that brings, right? Because, as an aggregate, the masculine and the feminine, that is the creation, right? The man and the woman, the masculine and the feminine is the creation of life, right? It's the creation, it's the source. So, we need to have these interactions, but we need to, as a man, we also need to know where we've got to get to achieve our goal. And we need to be able to acknowledge the distractions. Yeah, right, they're there, but that's not where I'm going at the moment. I'm going there. That's it, right? This is what I'm doing. Okay? And that might be as simple as, right, well, I want to change how I'm feeling, right? Honey, we're moving to the ocean, right? Or I'm going to go and start this yoga class. And that's it. That's what I'm doing, right? I appreciate your opinions and what you feel about it, but that's what I'm doing, right? If that's not in alignment with you, that's okay. But this is the path I'm on. You're welcome to go over there and smell the roses and stay with the roses if you want, but this is what I'm doing. You've got to do what you need to do to heal yourself, to come back into alignment with yourself. Because if you're not healed, if you don't take that time and put in that effort, you know, it's going to continue to manifest and amplify, and things, you know, may not be the best going into the future. But, you know, taking charge of your own life, right? For me, that's meant basically, you know, shutting out most of society, of my friends, of my family, not shutting them out completely, but, you know, having disagreements to the point where we don't talk for a while because I will not be pulled from that which I am doing. You know, it's not going to happen, okay? And they need to come into alignment with that, or they don't. They can just sit on the sidelines. But our families, you know, our friends, our real ones are always going to be there anyway. They're always going to be there. But you've got to do what you've got to do to heal you, right? So that you can manifest that positivity in your family, around you, right? And, you know, don't be afraid to say to your family, look, I know this is what they say, I know this is what the doctors say, I know this is what the TV says, but listen, this isn't what I'm feeling. This isn't the problem at the moment. This isn't what is going on. What you're saying, it's not the truth in me, right? So you need to be firm and assert that, hey, I appreciate your good intentions, but it's just not how it is at the moment. So if you're not prepared to listen to me and come into alignment with what I'm saying it is as the one experiencing it, if you're going to use, you know, external information to try and put your to try and label it and to try and fit it into a box that you can understand, you know, it's not going to work. So you need to be firm and say, right, I know what I need. And when I need something, I will ask for it. And that's another thing men need to learn to do. And it's a very hard thing to do for men, is to ask for assistance when you need it. Do not be afraid to ask for assistance when you need it. And when you do that, right, you're giving them freedom. You're freeing up their constant worrying mind, because they know that you're going to come to them when you need assistance, right? Rather than them worrying about you all the time and trying to psychoanalyze, you know, your life and every aspect of your life and fit it into this box, right? Which, you know, you can feel as a man, as the one experiencing it, or a woman, you know, you can feel that from your partner or your loved one or your family. You can feel the analysis going on in the discussions they're having with you, right? So you've got to sit down and say, look, if I need assistance, I'm going to ask you for it. And you do that. You be vulnerable. You must be vulnerable. You've got to be open. And you've got to be open to hearing your family side. You've got to be open to, you know, listening to them tell you why they're doing it, why they're feeling that way, because they're worried about you, right? Because they love you. So opening yourself up to speaking freely with your family, right, with your loved ones, being vulnerable, right, in the sense that asking for help is a good thing because it puts their mind at rest and it stops them from feeling the need to psychoanalyze everything you're doing, which puts pressure on you and magnifies the situation, right? So speaking, being vulnerable, right? Asking for help when you need it and saying, hey, if I don't ask you, I don't need it, it's not happening, don't worry about it, right? So learning to speak and open up the throat and the mouth, and speaking your feelings as well, you know, that's a really, really big one. Speaking how you're feeling, right? speaking, you know, articulating how you're feeling and why you're feeling it. You know, what are they doing that's making you feel this way? And just speaking about it, you know, can really help. So, and being direct, you know, in that masculine energy, being direct about what you need and what you don't need, and what is in alignment with you and what you need to do, right? If you need to transform this negative energy, this guilt or this shame or whatever it is, right? If you need to transform something that is heavily weighing on you, then you've got to figure out the path that you're going to do that, right? I suggest you start with yourself, with your, you know, your health and your nutrition and your yoga and your breath work and your meditation and your surfing, right? And doing these things, starting with these things, and allowing that to unfold. When you have an intention in your mind and you know what you've got to do or where you've got to get to, or even if you don't, but if you know where you don't want to be, right, and you're going to make the little changes to get out of this, right? You may not know where you're going. You know, I didn't know where I was going. Where I thought I was going changed every few months or every week, or, you know, it just changed all the time, you know. But knowing that this isn't where you want to be, taking the little steps to start with, or big steps if you can, to change that, right? And following that path, or if you know where you need to get to change, you know, to transform this energy to the positive, then get straight on that path and do it. Some people don't need that healing. Some people, you know, have already done it. Some, you know, we don't spend a lifetime trying to heal, right? Because we have to live. Yeah, it's not all about healing, right? Healing and the spiritual practices and all that stuff, the you know, is to allows us to execute our path, to execute our mission, right? It allows us to get to where we need to be. There, you know, meditation and yoga and all that stuff, some people make a life out of it, and good on them. That's great, you know, because then they provide that service. But that's, you know, for a lot of people, it's not what life's about, right? We're here in a physical body to live a physical life. That stuff is just to help us get from down here to where we need to be. That's all it is, right? And if you don't need those things to get to here, then don't worry about it, right? That's no problem. But make sure you're in alignment and you know where you need to get to, right? And it's going to have that positive effect. That's how you transform the negative to the positive, right? Make the positive change and be the positive change that you want to see.
Love your delivery. Thank you, Lucas. Love it, love it. Let's wrap up back to Kata Tjuta. Did you go through some spiritual grounding, masculine change? I mean, apart from, you know, what we mentioned in the beginning, what else can you share about your experience and your connection to Kata Tjuta?
Yeah, Kata Tjuta, you know, that just so powerful. And it's you know, one of the experiences to put it in words, you know, like, I guess alignment is one of the words I would use. Alignment and perspective and clarity are some of the things that it brought to me. And, you know, the story that happened with you and Lardy, you know, and I'll never forget it. And, you know, I was there with an ex-partner, you know, and you know when something's not right, you know it's not right, but you want it to be right because you're enjoying it, right? But I knew it wasn't right, and we went to Kata Tjuta, so we all flew to Uluru for this thing. I'm there when I'm called to go. They're like, that's what I've got to do. And I went there, and then, you know, the ex came and her friends came and whatever. And we went to Kata Tjuta. And I went there with my ex and her friends, you know, and it sort of started raining a little bit, and it got a bit windy. And they're like, oh, you know, oh, let's go back and get a coffee. I'm like, no, I've waited to do this walk. I've waited to do it until you got here so we could do it together. And their friends, and they're like, oh, no, we'll just go and get a coffee. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's going to stop. Right? It's going to be fine. And I sort of turned around and started walking back. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know, you're not my people. That's it. And I sort of knew at that time, like, you're just not my people. I said it to every one of them. And, you know, as we were walking back, you and Lardy came walking up the track. And I was just like, my people, here's my people. These are the people I'm supposed to walk it with, right? These are the people that I have to walk it with, because these ones don't want to do it. And lo and behold, you know, we get together, and that was one of the, you know, really joyful experience. And the rain stopped, right? The wind stopped. It turned out to be beautiful and sunny, and we did this journey together. And you know, the synchronicities like that, those are the spiritual experiences. When we learn to recognize the synchronicities of life that happen in and around us and to us, right? And we learn to observe and recognize the coincidences or synchronicities, and we sort of piece them together. They tell us a story, right? In the physical world, they tell us a story about our life. They show us things. They show us paths. They show us who is and who isn't. They show us things, right? If we can listen and watch, and we need to slow down, you know, and we need to observe things in our environment in order to see these things and piece them together, right? It's a great way shower for our physical journey, and that's a spiritual experience. That's the realm of the universe, the cosmos, the earth, you know, the earth energies, the elements, all talking to us. And when we're in alignment with those things and these synchronicities are happening, we're in this state of flow, right? You know, that's a big part of the spiritual experience. But being at those rocks and feeling the power, which I believe they're asteroids that have landed there, just based on the geology and the rock formations and the conglomerate of rocks that have poured all over. You know, they must have been superheated, poured all over the rest of them. You know, it's humbling, but it's empowering. State, and you know, it reminds us of the power of the cosmos and how small we are, but significant at the same time. It's, you know, to do it with you and Lardy, and it was just a really good example of you know, you were doing what you were doing, and we were doing what we were doing, and we all just kept on, you know, doing our thing. But we'd always sort of come back together, and we'd separate and go on our own little path, and then we'd come back together. It was a really good microcosm of the macrocosm in the journey of life, in that, you know, ultimately, you know, we all come back together, and then we separate, and then we come back together, and we separate. This is man and woman, masculine and feminine, man and man, like friend and friend, or woman and woman. You know, we go through these. We all take different paths, but we all end up at the same destination. You know, and no one's going to a different destination. You know, we're all going back to the earth. But what we do while we're here, what path we take, they're all going to be different, right? And your path isn't my path and my path isn't your path, but we remind each other, and we help each other, and we nurture each other along the way. And you do your work, and then I suggest, oh, maybe you should do that, and that's going to help people, and then you do that, and then you expand and grow, and then you're helping all these people. And it's like, and I call you if I need to speak to someone about something that I'm struggling with, and that's how we work. We help each other, we come together at the time we need to, and this is what humanity is sort of, at this time we kind of need to come together, right? And we come together in a structured manner, right? Because that's how, that's what I learned in the military. It's effective, right? It's effective because there is a structure, and there is a definitive word, right? It comes down from the leadership and it gets done, right? Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's effective because it gets done, right? They come together as a nucleus and they make it happen, right? In times of conflict, right, you've got to come together and you've got to work together as a nucleus, as a unit, right, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you can have satellite, little satellite groups here and there as well, but working together, having that central focal point, right, to guide and direct whatever needs to be done for that time period until you're out of the battle. And once you're out of the battle, you go back home, you all go your separate ways, and you forget about it, right? It's done and dusted, right? And you go, the healing begins again. So there's different times for different horses for different courses, right? Some people say you should just meditate all the time. Well, I don't think that's true, right? You should meditate so that you know what you need to do, and then you've got to get up and go and do what you've got to do, right? Like,
yeah.
If life was supposed to be just a continuous spiritual journey where you don't do anything, well, you wouldn't have come here, right? Because you get to have that spiritual journey forever out there when you go back, right? Yeah. When you come to Earth, I believe, we have a mission and a purpose. And some people's purpose is to do that meditation and to hold a frequency, to hold a certain frequency, right? And some people's purpose is to do that yoga their whole life. And some people's purpose is to do these things their whole life because they are a conduit to other people doing them so that they can get on their path, right? But not everyone should make a life out of these things. However, a practice of meditation and yoga and breathing, on a daily basis for a period of time would really benefit mankind because it sets us in motion. It puts us in the right harmonic frequency to with focus and clarity, take on the rest of our day and the rest of our night in our journey, right?
Yeah, great. And I'd just like to add on to that story that you shared of us at Kata Tjuta. It's my memory that, because we're talking about 2 years ago, December solstice 2020. That's right, yeah. And so I think the day before or 2 days before, the three of us, you, me and Lardy, we had gone to a different area of Kata Tjuta. And, we'd done that pilgrimage together, because I can remember you pointing out about the geology of the rocks. And this reminded me as you were touching on it then. That's right, isn't it? You got some geology background? Yes, right, great. Well, yeah, let me just share this story. And then we said, right, so in 2 days' time, we're going to do the other part of Kata Tjuta. And you said, oh, I've already, agreed to my girlfriend that I'll go there with her. And even though we could see that you would have rather have come with us, you were the honourable man, you'd already committed to spending that day and taking your girlfriend, ex-girlfriend and her 5 or 6 friends to the other part of Kata Tjuta. So, you're a man of your word, committed to them, even though we knew you would have rather come with us. So anyway, that's what happened. We went, Lardy and I went, and Brian, who joined us on that day. and we were just starting off on our pilgrimage for the day, and you were already coming down with the 4 or 5 girls, very disgruntled. You saw us, your arms went in the air, and you're like, my people, because you thought that because of the track that goes around Kata Tjuta, you thought we were at some other point, and you know, even though you wanted to then find us, to spend the day with Kata Tjuta with us, you thought the chances of finding us were pretty limited. But then we crossed paths at exactly the right time, and you were like, see you girls, off you go. I found my people.
Well, you know, as I was saying before, sometimes what we want to be is not going to be, because the universe has other plans, and the universe has a way of delivering its will, regardless of how we feel or what we want. You know, that's what it does. You know, I didn't want to do that walk with all the, you know, all her friends and stuff, but I thought, all right, if that's what she wants to do, then that's what I'll do, right? If that's what she needs, no problem, right? I wanted to do it just us, right? But the universe had a different plan, and it was like, you know, and it did that deliberately so that I would see it. It's like, no, that's not where you're going. You're going here, and this is the path, right? And you know, it shows us and it tells us the story. But you know, because like anybody, you know, I want to have that union and that connection with you know, with a woman, right? And have that cosmic, sacred, you know, beautiful connection. And I wanted it to be, you know, I wanted it to be, but it wasn't to be at that time. It was to be with, you know, with you and Lardy. It was a different connection, you know. It was a different, you know, it was spiritual, and brought us together in the physical. And yeah, you know, I wanted to do it with you guys as well. But I don't know. I guess the universe put that there for all of us to see, because you guys were part of it. You witnessed it. You know, you were there. You saw it all, and you know, that whole period of time there was really, really powerful, and really, really the veil was extremely thin, and you know, I it's a time I'll never forget, you know. And I'm grateful that you and Lardy were there, especially, and you know, and the other guys that were there as well, you know, the other crew, and I did meet, you know, other beautiful people through that experience, and but yeah, that was the spiritual connection and bond that was formed at that moment, and you know, and that was obviously already there. That's how it sort of put us all there, but that was formed, and for us all to be in our position on that specific time when that specific thing was happening that I experienced and witnessed, and you know, sort of interjected into, and then where you were holding the space and holding the frequency, and emitting that from Uluru as well, and being that conduit, and Lardy sort of being in the middle, and it was just like this, Lardy and Brian, you know, being in the middle with bare feet, you know, so just being pure conduits, you know. It was just, you know, nothing that happened on that journey could have been scripted any better by any man or movie writer or director or anything, you know. It was just, and we're not even scratching the surface of the things that and synchronicities that took place, but incredible it was. And yeah.
Well, it just came to, if we hadn't connected on that track, that was just that one particular incident we were talking about now, we probably wouldn't be here, and who knows if Heart Warriors would even exist. because going back to the original story of how Heart Warriors was created, that's how all the synchronicity has worked together to make sure that the three of us were connected to bring this into manifestation. So I just love it so much. And as you said, we haven't gone into the depths of things that happened there, which might be for a separate show, you know, to get the three of us on actually talking about that solstice 2020 and how we ended up where we were when we were all planning to be 100 kilometers away at Attila at Mount Connor. That's for another story. I think we'll get the three of us on and to talk specifically about Kata Tjuta.
Yeah, well, hopefully, as yeah, we can do that from Kata Tjuta. We'll see. You know, that'd be nice.
We're working on manifesting that. I'm going out on the mid-December until Christmas to for the solstice, our summer solstice out there, and we're really hoping the three of us can connect there. So yeah, let's make it happen. Lucas, wow, have you got a very short final message to men? Because we'll wrap this up and then we'll find out where people can get in touch with you, find you on your social media. But so either, yeah, let's do that first so we don't forget. Where can people find you? And then give us a short wrap-up message to men, please.
They can find me on Facebook through yours, yeah, if you could put a comment on there anyway, but yeah, if you could just tag me in it, they can find me on there. That's probably the best place. Having trouble getting on YouTube now. I do get censored a lot. Final message for the men, right, is once you've done those things, like, or even before that, like, if you're somewhere you don't want to be emotionally or physically or spirit, whatever it is, right? Like, and all these things that we talk about can sound daunting as an aggregate. Like, just take the first step, right? Like, just learn to remember and realize again the power that is within you, and you know, and within your voice, you know, within your body, you know, going for a walk or just, but taking the first step, like, because things can seem very daunting, right? Especially when we've been sitting in our house for, you know, for a year or a month or 3 years or 10 years or whatever. Things can really seem daunting. So just take the first step, you know, if it's with your partner and you want to establish some boundaries or something, the first step might be, yeah, honey, I love you, but from tomorrow onwards, at this time, or just tomorrow, I'm going to have an hour by myself, or it might be 10 minutes by myself where you just can't talk to me, and I'm not going to talk to you. It's not because I don't love you or whatever, it's just because it's something that I feel I need to do. But just take tiny steps, you know, whatever you can do to start, just start, right? Just get the ball rolling, okay? If that's making a phone call or sending a message or whatever it is, or you know, if you've said something to someone that, you know, you wish you didn't say, just sending a message, right? And just saying, look, I'm sorry I said that. I feel like shit. Just starting at the beginning and opening yourself up to being vulnerable, to admitting when we're wrong, right? And going, yeah, moving forward from there. But just take the first step. Just do something, right? To break the cycle that you're in, right? And then go from there.
Oh, Lucas, I'm just in awe of, you know, even in the 2 years since we've actually sort of, you know, since we were at Uluru and Kata Tjuta, I can just see, you know, your expansion and how far you've evolved on your journey as a man, as a heart warrior. And I'm in awe, I really am. So thank you so much for sharing your time, energy, wisdom, love with us. And, you know, I really hope that we will connect next month, because it's the 1st of November here today, next month. And if we meant, we all know if we're meant to, we will. I mean, you know, there's a whole lot of variables, you know, that could happen in the world as a whole between now and then. But if we're meant to be there, we will be, and we'll be sure to, you know, be using our energy and creating some great content. So I love you very much, soul brother, and thank you.
Thank you for having me on, Gemma. Thank you for all the work you're doing for the men. I hope people share these messages and get them out to men, because, you know, it really is important. People need to see it and they need to hear it in order to remember it. You know, it's already within them, they just have to remember it. But thank you for what you're doing for the men, and bringing this light and awareness and remembrance, you know, this essence of what it is to be man and woman and life as a collective. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank the Spirit for bringing us together, and thanks for, you know, bringing this to me, this opportunity on this first, at 11 o'clock on the first day of the 11th month, 2022. Many blessings to you. Keep doing the amazing work, and yeah, we'll talk again.
All right. Stay on, please, Lucas. And bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back in a couple of days with another episode of Heart Warriors.